You have never experienced a brand like ours before, the luxury division of Pella. We are the conversation starters, the pioneers of industry, who provide unconventional solutions to discerning architects, the building industry, and beyond. With decades of experience creating things no one else in the world is creating, we are brands brought together to complement and build on one another. With no hesitation, we can deliver your design vision and have an unwavering confidence in our product solutions. We don't push beyond the limits, we set them.
Hi, welcome back to our final session of Close-Up Day 2. I am Stacey Shoemaker-Rowan, your host for the day, and we're excited to end on forecasts. I feel like it's such a fitting end to Close-Up. Everything we've been talking about has been a glimpse of the future over these last couple of days, and our session here will bring that all together, I think. And it's a special session. It's presented by the luxury division of Pella, which you just saw their video. If you don't know, the luxury division of Pella was established to better achieve architects and homeowners' distinctive visions through partnerships with companies well established in fields. These industry pioneers provide solutions to one-of-a-kind industry challenges. So I'm super excited to give you about what's happening in the next 50 minutes. It's jam-packed, so here we go. First, I'm joined by Jen Tukin, who is the Manager of Design and Insights for Pella Corporation. Mm-hmm. Hi, Jen. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you. Excited.
So she's going to give us a briefing from Pella's most recent insights and steep analysis. And then we're going to head to Paris, where WGSN's Lisa White is going to give us their global forecast. And then we're going to come back into the studio where we're going to be joined by an amazing group of design leaders to comment on the outlook and their takeaways. So get ready. It's going to be great. So first, Jen, welcome to Close-Up.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. And you have insight as an industrial designer with passion on user-focused design, innovation, market disruption, and team collaboration. So can you share some of your latest findings?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am here from the luxury division, which is super exciting because our trends team internally at Pella and with the luxury partnership is hyper-focused on understanding what's happening in the marketplace, because ultimately that is what's then influencing homeowners and architects and designers to essentially build their perfect style, right? And so we're bringing that vision to life for them. So our trends team is focused on understanding what is happening in the industry, what is changing, what are the dynamics. And so one of the ways that we do that is when we're looking at trends, we put them in 3 big categories. And we put them into macro trends, which are more of that consumer behavior driver stuff. Then we have our mainstream trends, which are more focused on style, what's going to be here for 1 to 3 years. And then we have our micro trends, which are those new and neat things that every once in a while you see. Like we had iridescence, right, come back for a little bit. And of course we were like, we probably shouldn't do that on windows and doors, but it could be a little bit of fun. So today specifically, we're going to talk about macro level trends. And one of the things that we do internally as a team is we're bringing all of this content together to essentially say, okay, what are those threads and themes between all of them that are driving those consumer behaviors? And so we do a steep analysis, which if you haven't heard of it, it is social trends, technology trends, economic trends, environmental trends, and then political trends. And so we bucket them together and we wrestle with all of the content that we see throughout the year. And we come back together once a month to say, hey, what's new? What are you hearing? What's changing? Because there's a ton of they're completely related to one another, essentially. And so we then look at those and say, okay, well, what are those drivers? What are those emotions? And that's essentially what we turn into our 5 macro level trends that we report out on the business. And that's where we start to say, okay, what are the conversations we need to be having? What are those products that we need to be designing? What are the content strategy we need to be having. And so our 5 trends, we have our 2020 trends, and then we see how they've shifted over the year, especially this past year, right? COVID totally disrupted each one of those categories. And so the one that I want to highlight today is emotional anxiety in 2020. We had fear of missing out, we had cancel culture, and we had this immense loneliness happening. Well, over the past year, that just became enormously impacted and even more important to extreme isolation. We were basically pressed back into our home. We started finding new things that our homes need to do for us. And it has a deep mental impact on us, not just mental, but also just general wellness in the home. And so what we've done is we track them year over year to see how they're evolving and shifting. And then we look at them and we say, well, how is design then combating that challenge? Understanding that we are living in isolation, we then have to say, let's translate that into a few things. So we have some different macro trends. We have home as a hub, co-creation. We have safe and flexible spaces, and then a few others. And then I want to bring the one to life is safe and flexible spaces, because homes they're the schools, right? They're our work environments. And so we've not only had to do that interior-wise, but exterior as well. And so windows and doors have played a bit of a role in that, in terms of, hey, I'm now sitting next to my window. It's becoming so much more important than it ever was before. But we're also seeing windows move interior too. So spaces are starting to be divided up for that safety, which used to be a wall. Now it's a glass wall. It's a window or a door, because you still want that natural light to be coming in and you want that fresh air to be coming in, but you still need separation of spaces. So those are just a few ways that we're seeing those trends come together. And there's so much more I want to share, which is why I'm really looking forward to the discussion portion. Yeah. But for now, I'll go ahead and wrap it up. And Stacy,
thank you
take it
so
away.
much. Such great insight. And it must be really fun to name the trends and then track them and see where they go.
Yeah, and we've consistently had the same, what I call like our very curious content consumers. Right. Our internal trends team just wrestling with all of these big ideas all the time. And they're consistent, so we get to talk about it all the time, which, as a creative, you're always trying to solve a problem. And these are just, it's one of the mechanisms we have inside to basically stay relevant in the conversation.
Well, love it. Well, thank you. And we'll bring you back into the conversation at the end. That was such great food for thought. So now we're going to head to Paris with Lisa White, who is the creative director and director of lifestyle and interiors for WGSN, the Change Forecasters. They have a global talent map of over 300 individuals, and they help innovators navigate change with curated data and expertise, all toward the goal of creating a better future. So Lisa, welcome to CLOSEUP.
Thank you so much. I and WGSN are so pleased to be part of the CLOSEUP program. My name is Lisa White, and I am Director of Lifestyle and Interiors at WGSN. I'm an American, and I've lived in France ever since I joined Lee Edelcourt's Trend Studio after college, where I edited the trend forecasting magazines View and Color, In View, and Bloom. For 10 years now, I've been working with WGSN, the world's first and foremost digital trend forecasting business. At WGSN, we've been the authority on consumer and design trends for over 10 years. With our expert product design and consumer insights, we help designers create the right products at the right time for tomorrow's consumer, from fashion to interiors to beauty to food and drink and beyond. Everything starts with understanding the consumer. We help our clients make confident decisions backed by trusted trend insights, expertly curated data, and actionable recommendations, from up-to-the-minute trend feeds to 10-year-out forecasts like our Future of Home 2030 report. We make it easy for creative thinkers to understand, design, and buy for the next generation consumer, wherever in the world they might be based. So we track macro trends, we turn them into consumer profiles, and we predict consumer demand for products, services, and experiences. So today, I'm going to present our Big Ideas 2023 report. And each January at WGSN, we produce the Big Ideas series of reports, which highlight the industry-specific trends you need to know so you can develop strategies and start developing products and services that will resonate with your customers in 2 years' time. And against the challenging economic, social, and environmental backdrop, over the next 20 minutes, I will outline 5 areas that will impact product development for the lifestyle interiors area for 2023. I'll explain them, explore the opportunities they present, identify early adopter companies, and outline what you can do to succeed. So to give you some context of how our trend ecosystem is constructed, the 5 trends outlined in our Big Ideas reports over there on the right evolve from the broader themes explored in our 2 annual flagship forecast, Future Drivers there on the left, which chronicles the social, economic, and political factors that will affect businesses in 2023, and Future Innovations, which showcases the creative and cultural directions that will shape the next 2 years. These reports are produced by WGSN's global team of 300 experts and analysts, ensuring they have broad relevance across all regional markets across the world. Our trends are validated by data, industry examples, and our unique STEPIC methodology, which covers developments in society, technology, the environment, politics, industry, and importantly, creativity. So you can apply them with confidence to your work. So let's get started. What are the need to know big ideas for 2023? 2023 will see the world beginning to move through the turbulence that has defined the start of the decade, bringing new systems, priorities, and values to the fore that will shape our material world. These are long-term trends and will demand strategies both near to term, but especially for that long term. So the first one is push for progress. The second is embracing frugality. The third is mastering well-being. The fourth is tech-ceptance. And the fifth is intentional community. So really, investment in long-term solutions through research is going to be driving innovation. We're going to be seeing a lot of things coming through here that you will recognize, but also that are a little bit out there in some cases. So our first trend is push for progress. In 2023, products will need to be fit to function in a trading environment where collective activism has increased and industry practices are being continually challenged on environmental and social grounds. Investors and consumers will increasingly demand services, systems, and products that accelerate regenerative change and deliver inclusive and equitable outcomes at local, national, and global levels. Proactively designed products that do more good will stand out to consumers as markets become inundated with products designed to do less harm. So some of those implications are as consumers pressure brands to become climate positive and socially equitable, ethical practices will go mainstream and become much more ambitious. Companies will need to be focusing on designing out waste, adopting circular models, collaborating equitably and respectfully with makers and suppliers, and redesigning even the most humble everyday products with sustainability at their core. So what you see here, this sort of declare tab, it's about transparency, which is going to be critical to building trust with consumers. The International Living Future Institute's nutritional labels lay out the values behind a product, detailing everything from equitable sourcing and end-of-life product options to how employees are treated. Consumers and clients will want to know everything about your product, and you've got to be there and explain it to them. So here are a few case studies that we found were global examples of push for progress. Regenerative agriculture is scaling up and will increasingly be adopted by interiors brands. For example, top middle there at Koyuchi, they plan to introduce regenerative cotton by 2023 in their bed linens. We're also seeing hemp as a fiber making a comeback. And as you know, the concept of regenerative is giving back as much as you take away, if not more, and hemp is a great raw material to be working with in that case. But giving back also means giving credit, including financial credit to those who create. Over there on the top right, Australian brand Kip & Co.'s collaboration with Barbara Women's Centre places equity at its center. The brand brought in Australian organization, the Copyright Agency, to draw up a framework to protect the rights of artists, and they split profits equally. In the US, there is a great print and pattern developer in Brooklyn called Roots Studio. They develop products with indigenous communities who receive a percentage of every print they sell. Socially inclusive brands will also gain traction. UK-based Arende, over there on the left, works with people facing social challenges, often via partnerships with social enterprises, to create products that have a positive impact on maker and buyer. And when you push this hard for progress, it's important to communicate to clients. Online, bottom right there, US luxury e-commerce site Olivella donates 20% of proceeds to charity and clearly displays the impact of the donation below each item, so you know where your money is going. As consumers embed sustainability across their lifestyles, household basics will be redesigned to meet demand. As with British housewares brand, middle bottom there, Lakeland, they've got a compostable plastic wrap, which is genius. We're seeing so many consumer goods companies, from plastic wrap to toilet paper, really upping their sustainability, social, and design credentials. We also want to use products that make us proud and pleased to use them, even if that just means a dish soap that is as ecological and ethical as it is aesthetic and fragrant. Which brings us to our next slide. Embracing frugality is the next big idea. So income insecurity and recession will have been a collective experience for many by the time we reach 2023, leading consumers to reassess their priorities and their needs for themselves as well as others. Frugality will no longer be considered something negative, but will be embraced as a life skill, one that can be mastered and shared and celebrated as the new form of smart consumption. To appeal to this mindset, it will be imperative to develop products that can be made and used efficiently and that enable self-sufficiency, aligning with your core consumers' values and interests. The motivation to be more frugal and less wasteful will not only emerge from financial constraint, but also from a newfound interest in DIY as a way to better sync with the seasons, the environment, and with a community or a locality. Within the home itself, frugality is becoming increasingly desirable and combines the appeal of saving money with the drive to live more sustainably. Reuse is becoming mainstream, and as DIY booms, thanks in part to people upskilling themselves during lockdowns, more self-sufficient lifestyles will start to feel within reach to consumers. Products that will last a long time, that can be reused, restyled, repaired, and resold will be very key here, as we'll also see later. Caring for all of our products will be key, like this soap saver net that keeps soap residue off countertops, and it makes your countertop much cleaner, but it also ensures that every last bit of soap can be used to lather up. And it's quite beautiful. So some of our case studies. Renting and recycling and re-commerce will continue to grow, driven by innovative formats, top middle there, such as Berlin's Warenhaus, a city-run upcycling department store that also upskills its community, again, going a step further to give more and give back. In consumer electronics, the market for used and refurbished smartphones, right underneath there, is set to see an 11.2% compound annual growth rate to 2024, reaching a market value of $65 billion, according to the IDC. Brazil brand Trocafone makes the process easy and reliable with pre-addressed mailers. Pre-pandemic also, the kitchenware brand in Brazil called Spicy would actually rent out bakeware to clients because they didn't either have space in their kitchens or they wanted kind of a one-time set of wedding cake tins to make a cake, but they didn't want it taking up space in their home. The rise of e-commerce will boost interest in vintage as well, particularly as personal style becomes a priority. Curated Space is a marketplace in Australia for vintage furniture, that's over there on the left, and it's restyled in new context and restored when necessary. So we're really taking a look at styling things new. Frugal Lifestyle star in IKEA's recent campaign top right, which demonstrates how thrifty practices such as repainting furniture and pickling your own food are mainstreaming. And bottom right there, living a low-impact van life will also evolve. As remote work makes mobile lifestyles possible for more people, homes on wheels will grow in appeal for vacations and workations. Living vehicles' luxurious specs include a solar awning and UV water purification. Mastering well-being is the third big idea. The trauma of the pandemic and the recession will see consumers assessing their emotional and physical status with a new understanding of how the two are interlinked. and how they contribute to their overall wealth, health, effectiveness, and well-being. Mental and physical well-being have become top of mind for consumers over the past year. With tech tracking tools now monitoring mood in addition to fitness and activity, people will be seeking products, activities, and environments that help them better regulate and harness their moods for their own good. In 2023, designers and developers will need to account directly for emotional needs in products and track and optimize how they intersect, not just with mental fitness, but also health and wellness in the home, at work, and also outdoors. With the home now functioning as a sanctuary hub and a healing space, wellness-boosting features will need to be embedded throughout product ranges. High-tech and lo-fi solutions will both be important, including advanced smart home solutions and the rise of invisible design, where products and experiences draw on sensory elements such as smell and light to set a mood. We're really going to be taking a look at multi-sensory marketing. And some of our case studies here. With home workouts normalized by the pandemic, indeed 81% of millennials in the US now prefer home workouts to trips to the gym. Products will continue to bring gym-level functionality into the home. Launched at CES this year, Nordic Track's Vault Mirror doubles as a virtual trainer and a weight storage room. And of course, it puts you into real-time interaction with somebody in the studio and with other people who are exercising around you. So it's the best of both worlds. Emotion tracking and hacking will be a key feature for tech. Bottom right there, the Apollo Neuro uses gentle vibrations to relieve stress, improve focus, and increase sleep quality. And really low tech here on the top middle, QFit's popular water bottle is more of a lo-fi interpretation of mood-driven design, printed with motivational slogans to encourage hydration throughout the day. Sensorial and invisible design elements such as lighting and scent will be increasingly recognized for their impact on mood. German brand Eve's smart light strip changes color to adapt to time of day and desired mood, from a warm wake-up setting to cooler midday tones in order to maximize comfort and productivity. And home fragrance is set for a continuing period of growth as consumers tap into the transportative power of scent. US brand Keys Soul Care's candles aim to turn routine into ritual with calming and grounding fragrances such as sage and oat milk. So routine self-care items like candles or toothpaste and deodorant are now becoming better and more intentionally designed into rituals. So even those really basic things can give us a mood uplift to our day. Our fourth area of focus is tech-ceptance. As barriers between the digital and physical world recede and science starts to deliver more trusted solutions to problems, comfort levels around technology and lab-based innovation will grow, leading to a newfound willingness to embrace effective alternatives to resource-heavy ingredients, materials, and product delivery solutions. This new acceptance and understanding of tech will see consumers become more involved in product design and development, resulting in more customized products and services. With physical and digital worlds becoming more interwoven, consumers will continue to place more value on digital products and assets as an expression of their lifestyle, their values, and their status. Consumers are proving to be increasingly open to tech-driven solutions for the home, and this has been accelerated during the pandemic. And business models such as rental and subscription, as I said earlier, have also become very resilient. Now, as gaming goes mainstream and virtual worlds begin to grow, a new wave of behaviors and products will emerge. Customization will be increasingly important in product design, as I said earlier, and digital-first decor is a trend to watch. We've been tracking the sale of digital furniture, such as that of Andreas Reisinger, which became so popular that his hyper-tactile Hortensia chair was recently edited in real life by Moy. With more designers creating online, we've seen the mood move from technical and cold to warmer and more emotionally appealing, like this image by Joel Martel there on the right. This is an aesthetic that we are calling digital cozy, digital spaces where you just feel good in those spaces, like ambient rooms. We believe so much in digital design that our color of the year for 2023 is digital lavender. And in our case studies, we're seeing tech pairing up with customization in increasingly consumer-friendly ways. As desire for playful self-expression rises, US brand E.D. Parker's customization interface, top right, feels fun and game-like, while Benchmade Modern, bottom middle, offers 100 different types and sizes of sofa and sectionals, adjustable in 5-inch increments. Consumer electronics in the home will also grow more expressive and more flexible. Bottom right there, Samsung has launched Bespoke, a line of appliances that can be customized by size, shape, and color. And gaming's influence on interiors will grow even into retail channels. The Design Home mobile game has introduced Design Home Inspired, an e-commerce offering that enables players to shop for real items for the home as they play the game. And digital will increasingly be an interface with designers and interior designers. India-based home design platform LiveSpace matches consumers with designers and enables them to share mood boards, walkthroughs, and purchases on one platform. It recently raised $90 million in Series D funding and is expanding across Southeast Asia. And further into the future, product development will be increasingly digitized, with AI acting sometimes as co-designer. Adobe's latest AI experiments include a font tool that completes its own design based on a few initial strokes by a human designer, which is quite fun to use. Our last big idea is intentional community. The communities and collectives that consumers are part of have become more digital, social, local, and rooted in shared cultures or values, resulting in new ecosystems of buyers and creators who collaborate and connect in order to trade. Successful products and services will need to intentionally align with the values of these networks or evolve from them. To do this successfully, companies will need to embrace these consumers and collectives as co-creatives of brand voice and contributors to product design, and find ways to connect with them directly via intentional partnerships, co-design, and new business models. Collaboration is now core to interiors retail, and it will be important for brands to build co-design into their strategies over the next few years via direct dialogue with consumers, communities, and like-minded brands, even from different sectors. From neighborhood networks to online communities, lifestyle and interiors brands now need to reach consumers where they live and where their passions lie. Brands will need to seek out intentional partnerships to bring fresh angles to collaboration. Shown here, the upcoming startup Somewhere Good will offer a social network, events platform, and community for people of color, with brands acting as hosts and facilitators. And in our case studies, there's an interesting product collaboration on the left here. US brand Buffy's crossover with Madewell on wearable duvets, which I totally love, and eye masks is a key example of how to bridge fashion, interiors, and product collaboration, moving to that soft and comfy space. Calico's new wallpaper line, bottom middle, brings a personal spin to the collaboration. It was co-designed by creative director and co-founder Rachel Cope's small daughter Willow, whose child prints were layered with their mother's prints to create the designs. They're really dynamic. As design teams upskill in areas such as vegan design, which is growing, new certifications are going to rise. Founded by US-based interior designer Deborah DeMare, vegandesign.org offers training and certification, including a new course on designing vegan nurseries. Top right, based in Europe and the US, Thing Testing was founded as a place for people to discover, test, and recommend new brands, differentiated by its D2C focus and editorial approach. And bottom right, offering a different take on social curation, TikTok accounts such as Top Online Finds have given items such as storage and kitchen gadgets an unlikely fan base, opening up new possibilities for endorsement and collaboration. So here are 4 key action points for you. Show your social and sustainable values. So build out those priorities for ethical, social, and sustainable progress, ensuring that your goals and actions are communicated clearly. Number 2, embrace circular models of design. Meet emerging consumer needs for frugality with products that last a long time and can be reused and resold. So explore circular models, including e-commerce retail. Embed wellness into product ranges is our 3rd point. Focus on sensorial design as a way to uplift and to manage mood, exploring areas such as adaptive lighting and tapping into self-care rituals across the home. And our last point is digitize your progress. Digitize your creative progress where appropriate, opening up some design tools to your customers so that they can customize and play with things to their taste. Explore how products can be part of digital communities and go where people, find your customer where they are and meet them where they are. And just really quickly, I wanted to show you some other examples from our suite of reports for 2023. So following on from big ideas, our consumer lifestyles report, which delves into future consumer behavior based on 4 distinct consumer profiles. And then following on from there, we've got all of our product design forecasts, from the interiors forecast to specific forecasts on color, materials, furniture and lighting, decorative accessories, textiles, and many more other product categories. And this is just one example of our interiors forecast. For 2023, we focus on the trend towards supercharged simplicity, which takes a back to basics approach to design as consumers prioritize flexibility, durability, and comfort in their lifestyles and their interiors. And lastly, this is an example from our most recent trend curve reports, which rely on our proprietary data sources and machine learning technology to predict how trends will evolve using quantitative and qualitative analysis. We turned our attention this time to the growing trends of minimalism and maximalism, perfectly expressed in this photo by George Tybsha. On social media, with maximalism, keywords such as colorful and bold styles lead, with daring and fearless showing the most interesting jump as of July 2020. The words natural and minimal feature together in posts from minimalism, and we're seeing an interesting new trend emerge that we're calling neutral maximalism, which combines the best of both worlds. So to find out about these trends and more, please reach out to contact us at WGSN.com. And I'd like to thank you very much for your time and your attention.
Thank you, Lisa. That was amazing. Lots to digest here. And to do so, I have an amazing group of designers to help me. First, obviously, we have Jen Tukin with me from Pella, who you saw to kick off our session. We're also joined by Julianne Albertini, who is principal of Athletic. So thank you for being here.
Of course, of course.
Angie Lee, partner and design director of interiors for FX Collaborative. And last but certainly not least, Josh Green, who is founder of Josh Green Design. Welcome to CLOSEUP.
Thank you.
So before we get going, Jen has introduced herself, but why don't we go around the room and give a brief snapshot of who you are. Julianne, we can start with you.
Of course, of course. So I am the founding partner, well, one of the founding partners of Athletic. We're an interior design firm, but we also offer branding. We have an office in New York, Moscow, and Miami. I think one key thing that we do a little bit different is that we really look at branding as kind of the nucleus of a design project, and we take that as kind of the, let's call it the accelerant of any design project that we work on. So thank you so much for having us today. I'm excited about the discussion.
Thanks for being here. Angie.
Hi, Angie Lee. I'm a partner and the design director for the interiors practice for FX Collaborative. We're based in New York. We're about to move to Brooklyn, hopefully this summer, for our new offices. But we focus on everything from, shaping the skyline to sort of creating master plans for cities to bringing it down to the very intimate scale for interiors, which is where I live. And we kind of do everything except for prisons. That's probably the fastest way to say that, but we focus on the emotional, experiential narrative of sort of a vast range of scales. So I think the sort of DNA that I focus on is really focusing on the stories that design has for everybody, and I think this is a fascinating study into how that actually manifests into our built environment.
Well, thank you for being here. And Josh?
My name is Josh Green, and I'm an interior designer focusing mostly on residential work. Here in New York City, I'm based. I have a studio in Nomad, but I work, I'll go anywhere. But I typically work on projects, on the coast.
Ah, love it. All right, so let's dive into what Lisa presented. What stood out? What were the major themes that resonated with you?
Wearable duvets.
For sure.
That was an interesting one.
I think for me, what stood out was the last point that she talked about, which was minimalism versus maximalism, and how those are both trends, I guess. And I do see that because I'm actually working on a project that I think one could say is very maximal, and then I also have, at the same time, projects that are very minimal. So I think it really depends on, how people want to live and how they want their spaces to feel. But I see it both. And those could be people that are similar age and in a similar sized home, but they just want to live differently.
And I love how at the end she was like neutral maximalism, which is the best of both worlds. Which
I don't know what that was.
I know. Like, I need to dive more into that. Lisa, we need more.
Yeah, we need to get her here.
And
we can go to her.
Yeah.
We'll go to Paris.
We can go to Paris. That would be fun.
But I think I kind of understood neutral maximalism because for me, that means something that ties into another word that she used with intentional design. So as we spent over a year with our radius of experience getting smaller and contracting and smaller, our desire for expression has grown exponentially. So this idea of really thinking about every single habit and ritual that you have in this kind of closed environment at home has really created this level of frugality, as she calls it. I call it more sort of intentional sort of soul searching for the objects and the experiences that you've been sort of consuming kind of endlessly, sort of pre-pandemic. And so to understand what you really want to say with who you are, what you consume as a designer, how you design as a creative, is something that is very exciting for me as a designer, because I feel like we have so much to do ahead of us as creatives and designers shaping hopefully our new world.
Yeah, I totally agree. Julian?
Me, one thing that stuck out was kind of this new digital world that we're moving in. Over the last couple of years, I've noticed that kind of what we do as designers is super algorithmic, and you bring like new designers on board and you start kind of walking them through the design process. But I think one thing you start to notice is that there's connections in all the things that we do, right? And I think there's this new program called, I think it's Fragma or Figma or something like that. And what it does is you could create these really cool floor plans. If you drop, let's say, a bed in a room, it automatically sizes the bed to the size of the room. Or if you select one color of, let's say, a rug, it'll select the colors on the walls and so on and so forth. So I think it's really interesting to see kind of where design is going in the future. I think no matter what, the creative touch is always going to come from the human touch. But I think as we move into this digital age, I think it'll be interesting to see where computers start to kind of bolster our design process and the services that we offer to our clients.
Yeah, she mentioned that one company I think in India that got some serious Series D funding, but I've never heard of it, and I don't know what are they selling, and it seems like a lot of people are clearly using it, but there are a lot of new platforms that are coming out, so it's always changing. There's always new creations and new ideas, and sometimes they really lock on. There's a lot of direct. I certainly see this in like the residential world. There's a lot of direct to consumer, home brands. And so I think you see a lot of that. Sometimes they, crash and burn, and other times, they catch. I think First Dibs is. I think it was just in today's news. They're gonna IPO soon, or they filed for an IPO. Right. So but they've been around for a while. So everything's moving very quickly, and we'll see. It's also an incredibly complex, business. At least in all of ours, we have to get so much stuff from like point A to point B, and still typically everything's done by hand. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a huge challenge to sort of digitize that and make it fast and make it profitable and make it successful.
Yeah.
And I think easy for consumers to use.
Well, it's interesting that she mentioned the Hortensia chair that's in our green room, but that was I don't know if she knew it was in our green room, but created by a digital artist, then had to be, created. Moy was the one who decided to take that project on, but they talked earlier today about the process of taking something so digital and making it so real. And but it's interesting that, what can live in digital space and then become a reality.
Or with NFTs that just stay digital.
Yep, exactly.
I think someone sold a house on an NFT.
Oh,
yeah,
really?
I saw that.
Something
It was like
that.
hundreds of thousands of dollars for a home plan that they purchased, and now they're just able to track where it's going.
It's crazy.
Yeah, It's insane.
Jen, from your trends, was there anything that resonated with you that Lisa said?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's something interesting about all of a sudden we're being forced to solve new problems in the home that maybe didn't exist for homeowners. So the functionality of that workout system, right, where it actually stores itself and it goes into this very nice, clean visual aesthetic. I feel like those are things that, in design school, you're like, oh, this is the thing I'm gonna do, and it's great and amazing. But then we're actually seeing things like this come to life, and same as sort of the cradle to cradle and the sustainability story and the transparency of supply chains, all of that really resonates, especially in the role that I'm in now. But it also gets me really excited about just the new frontier that we're all kind of going on in this journey.
It was amazing. I wrote it down. Where did I write it? 81% prefer home workouts right now. So,
Wow.
What does that mean moving forward, right? For gyms. Was there anything that surprised me? Actually, I thought there'd be a higher number that wanted to go back to workout classes in person. But what else surprised you from what Lisa said? Anything that you're like, what is she talking about?
I don't know that I was surprised, but I felt comforted knowing or hearing that somebody like her, an expert, kind of confirmed a lot of the gut feelings that I've been having for a long time. So this idea of trust and this not wanting to go to the gym, which I never wanted to do ever. But I think there's a big trust issue on so many fronts.
Right.
But this creative tension right now between such polar opposite ends of, feeling, isolated and then wanting to be with crowds of people, even though for an introvert like me, I don't normally want to go, see music, but now I do, I miss that. So this idea of memory and the sort of present and projecting into the future is something that we've all been doing. I think the things that are going to come out of this are really phenomenally interesting. So the chair, for instance, how did that come about? We've been sort of dreaming and imagining what it's going to be like when we finally get there. So this notion of slowing down, we were forced to slow down, but now we're doing it on purpose. So the circular economy is really critical in figuring out how to do it better, because we've been just we were running on that kind of treadmill to nowhere before this, just growing and sort of progressing and sort of consuming at this mad pace. That didn't make sense, but now I hope we have a chance to do it differently.
And I think it's interesting to see, because I think just before COVID, everything started to kind of turn more into more experiential. Big box retailers are seeing kind of a hidden sales, and you're seeing all these mom and pop shops that are starting to kind of reemerge, because everyone wants to shop and kind of get this really kind of cool feeling and kind of feel like you're back in the 90s or so on and so forth. And I think now that COVID is hopefully behind us very soon, is that we're going to see a world where you're going to see these main streets that are starting to develop again, these experiences that are starting to develop again. And I think it's interesting to see what those designs look like and kind of how do we cater to these smaller retailers, even though we live in a world that's kind of digitally expanding very, very quickly. So I think it's very, very interesting. That's one thing that you mentioned.
Well, and I think too, the playing with low tech versus high tech. I know she was talking about Tech-ceptance, which I love that word. Lisa might steal it, but but there's been so much tech. So is there almost going to be a pushback in a way, and going more local, not ordering from online? Or not?
I think there is. I think we all, everybody's had, Zoom fatigue and all that. I think, everybody was sort of locked home, and, we're all on, in front of our computers, at the office and, on our phones all the time prior to, pre-pandemic. And then during the pandemic, we were just in our homes, in front of our computers, on our phones all the time.
Right.
So I think there is going to be, some sort of backlash. So I think it goes to your comment about the these experiences which were popular. Everything trending was going towards more experiential things. Before the pandemic, I'm curious now. I think it's definitely going to do that. Are those things going to be designed differently just by everybody's sort of collective trauma of going through the pandemic? Are things going to be spread out more? Are we? One of my favorite restaurants in the city is Lucien. tiny French bistro. The tables are packed together. I'm so excited to go, but I'm curious, like, am I gonna feel weird? Is it gonna feel, are they gonna spread it out and take away tables? Or are we all just gonna readapt to, the way things were before?
It's funny, pre-pandemic, getting on a flight, I was going overseas, my fiance throws on a mask. And I looked at her and I was like, oh, that's really, why are you wearing a mask? She's the only one wearing a mask at the time. She was like, I don't want to get sick on the plane. She usually gets sick. And it's funny, fast forward just 3-4 months and everyone's wearing masks.
Yeah.
And to that point, restaurants, it's like, I've been to restaurants that I used to go to, all the tables are pushed out, pushed aside, and you don't get the same experience. And I wonder, how are we gonna kind of solve one of those, solve that issue of having people next to us and having that energy that's kind of vibrating throughout the room as we're, doing many things that we used to.
And I think it's what Angie started with too, the flow, right? How even from smaller spaces to bigger spaces and just dealing with this social anxiety that you talked about, of wanting to come back together, but not knowing hey, hi, are we hugging? Are we saying hi? But everyone's very excited, so.
Here we are in person.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So is there an opportunity for, what Lisa was talking about, more community, more building, more on a smaller scale that then leads to something bigger?
Yeah.
I think hyper-localized retail and economies are going to be really interesting to watch, and each one of them is going to have to define their own voice and their own value proposition as to why you want to move back into the city in this specific location. And so I would imagine there's a huge conversation happening, especially here in New York, right? How do we get people back in Brooklyn? How do we get them back into this area? It's coming fast though. I think we'll know these answers very soon.
Yeah, there's a coffee shop that opened. It was in a space near my house in the Village, in Greenwich Village, and there was a space that had kind of always been problematic. It wasn't a great space, and a coffee shop moved in there. But there's a coffee shop that has other locations around the city. It's got great product, great vibe, and they kind of have it right. And it's packed every day, even and opened, before the city was really opened up. So I think it's going to be it's going to be a new type of business or aesthetic or something that's going to grab people, and that's going to work. And then you see across the street, another cafe could be completely empty.
Yeah.
So it's definitely weird out there. People are going to have to figure out what things are shifting to what, I don't know exactly, but it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people keep saying the Roaring 20s are coming back, right? Because after the Depression, then everyone came back out, and and I think it's so interesting. New York, we have a very different view than other places in the U.S. and the world because we've been locked down, and elsewhere as well. So I think it'll be an interesting wave to see how everything comes back. But I do think one thing that she touched on that we talked about earlier that's super important is wellness, and what does that mean, and how are you looking at that in your projects? Angie, you touch on so many different disciplines.
Yeah.
It must be a common thread that you see.
Yes. I have a lot of developer clients who come to me now first about biophilia and wellness. And I'm like, wait, where am I? Am I awake? I never thought that would happen, but it is something that has become mainstream. It is so important to make sure that you're taking care of the people who are using your product, your space. This level of trust is really embedded now so deeply into the brand value. The storytelling is so much more important because it has a bottom line value to it. So wellness is something that you can tie back to return on investment, productivity, all that kind of stuff. So this idea of where you choose to intentionally spend your dollars and how you design for people now that you're sort of listening to all the stories.
Right.
We've become a more sticky culture. It's not as fast-paced, which was painful at first, but now, again, I welcome it because I really feel like it's going to make us amazing sort of designers going forward.
Yeah. Josh, what do you see in the residential market?
In terms of wellness?
Yes.
It's funny, one thing I thought was, which is sort of a different take on it, was one of my clients, they were just look, we don't want this to be a stressful process. So we just want to take the time that we need because they didn't want to be stressed out. So that's sort of an idea of wellness, because they wanted to, emotionally take care of themselves. They didn't want to stress themselves out dealing with like lead time. They're like, look, if we need to push it back, we'll push it back. And so I thought that was a really interesting take. Now I wish everybody was like that.
Give me some more time.
Because we could have like a really nice, like chill time. But
That'd be good wellness for you.
It'd be good wellness for me.
Yeah.
And I have my own things that I do that make me that where I'm trying to be mindful and keep perspective and keep distance and create boundaries and all that. But that's everybody's own journey. But I don't know that there's like one. I haven't seen like something as tangible as like, an increase in like in-home massage rooms, which I think might be that would be something that people would have in their homes. But I'm not seeing that that much.
Julian, Jen, anything to add before we run out of time?
Wellness, I think it's the wellness industry is starting to grow these like sprouts of niche parts of a workout, right? You have SoulCycle that popped up. It's not if you don't want to just go to the gym, now you could just do cycling, or you don't want to go to the gym, you could just do boxing, or you don't want to go to the gym, you could just do at-home training in front of the mirror, and so on and so forth. So I think what we're seeing is bits and pieces of a workout, or bits and pieces of wellness that are starting to be kind of marketed, and companies are being created to actually insert them within a home. So I think, again, I don't know where we're going right now, but we're just starting to see these little pods that are starting to grow, and I think it's really interesting to see where the next year or 2 years takes us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing.
Yeah, I think for us, windows and doors, right? Like we talk a lot about natural light and fresh air, and really the trend is sort of driving us to have the bigger windows, or bigger, as big as possible, honestly, that still allow fresh air in the home, as windows and as doors. Like some of the doors that we see, just opening an entire back room to have that indoor-outdoor lifestyle, and having that kind of breath of fresh air, or just that sense of calm when you're out on your patio, and that's actually where you're conducting business now, right? Like that's your meeting room. Like that's kind of how we're seeing it in terms of playing out, as well as people are really focusing on how are you finishing the materials? Is it low VOC or no VOC? And being really more hyper aware of what they're choosing as a long-term durable good.
Right, more thoughtful, which I think goes back to a lot of what we were talking about. So thank you all. We're out of time. This was amazing, Jen, Julian, Angie, and Josh, for sharing your expertise, and Lisa as well. That's it. That was our last session of Close-Up Day 2, but stick around after these videos and short message. It'll be myself, Claire, Odile, Phil, and Bill on stage for our final recap of the last 2 days. So thank you so much. We'll be right back.